When we think of hollies, the image of neatly pruned shrubs growing next to a house or as a hedge are what usually come to mind. But in their wild form, many species of holly grow as trees, some of them decently sized trees. One of these species is the largest holly in the world, the American holly, Ilex opaca. Its large size isn't the only thing awesome about American holly. It is also a host plant, an important early season nectar and pollen source, and produces bright red berries that are eaten by a wide range of birds and mammals. We'll dive deep into those things in a bit, but now let's look at the native range of American holly, which covers most of the southeastern U.S. and into eastern Texas and Oklahoma, and up the Atlantic coast into the northeast. It is less common in the northern parts of its range. While American holly can grow to be quite large and has a distinctive look, it does resemble many other holly species, so let's take a minute to learn how to identify American holly in the field. American holly is a slow-growing, understory tree that can be found growing in association with a variety of hardwood and conifer species. Even though it can achieve an average mature size of 40 to 60 feet tall with a 10 to 20 foot spread, it takes American holly a long time to reach this size. Given enough time and the right location, American holly can get quite large, and there are historic records of American hollies reaching over 100 feet in height. The growth form of American holly can be conical, think of a Christmas tree, or cylindrical with a rounded top, and can have a dense branching pattern when grown in the open to a more open branching pattern when growing in heavier shade. While holly isn't often thought of as a lumber tree, due to the size of American holly, it is sometimes harvested for its wood, which is one of the whitest woods in the world and has indistinct growth rings. The wood isn't strong, but it is hard and resistant to wear, and is used for veneer, decorative inlays on wooden furniture, for wood carving and turning, and is sometimes dyed black to resemble ebony and used for piano keys and violin pegs and fingerboards. There are many cultivars of American holly available in the nursery trade, many of which have been selected for smaller size, growth form, leaf color, or flower and berry production. Bernheim Forest and Arboretum, south of Louisville in Claremont, Kentucky, has an awesome collection of American holly cultivars, along with a ton of other awesome trees and shrubs, and a beautiful pond that has some of the biggest bluegill I have ever seen swimming in it. Well worth checking out if you are driving through the area on I-65. Have you been to Bernheim Forest or have a favorite arboretum or botanical garden that you visit? Tell us about it in the comments. While American holly has a large native range, it isn't found growing everywhere within that range since it can be picky about soil. It grows best in slightly acidic to neutral, moist, well-drained soil. The texture of the soil can vary from loam to rather heavy clay or even sandy or rocky soil if the moisture conditions are met. Soils that are occasionally wet or dry are tolerated, but American holly cannot survive in soil that is flooded for extended periods, nor will it do well in alkaline soil. American holly is moderately salt tolerant. As an understory tree, American holly is shade tolerant, but will grow fastest, have denser foliage, and produce more berries in part to full sun. In hotter climates, it should be planted in an area where it gets afternoon shade, and thought should also be given to how much sun it will receive in the winter when deciduous overstory trees have dropped their leaves. The foliage of American holly is evergreen, and the leaves average 1 to 3 inches long by 1 to 3 inches wide, are thick and leathery in texture, elliptical in shape, and have several pointed teeth along the margin or leaf edge that end in sharp spines. There is also an apical spine at the tip of the leaf. The overall feel of an American holly tree is quite prickly. Occasionally, leaves may be found that do not have spine teeth. Leaf color is dark green and somewhat lustrous on the upper surface, paler green and dull on the lower surface. Even though the leaves of American holly are somewhat lustrous, they are not as shiny as the leaves of European holly, Ilex aquifolium, to which it was compared by the taxonomist of the time period when American holly was being named. This is where the species name Opaca, which means dull, originated from. Both leaf surfaces are smooth once the leaves are mature. Leaf arrangement on the twigs is alternate. Even though the foliage of American holly is quite tough, it is a host plant for at least 7 species of caterpillar, including those of the cool little Henry's elfin butterfly. The dense, bristly foliage makes excellent escape, resting, feeding, and nesting cover for songbirds. Deer may nibble on American holly occasionally, but it is highly resilient to it and tends to just grow back thicker. Likewise, American holly can withstand a good amount of pruning if required. Overall, American holly rates as highly deer and rabbit resistant. Now, before I get a ton of comments about deer eating holly, let me say that deer resistance ratings for plants depend on a ton of variables. If you live in a place with super high deer density and they have eaten all the preferred browse, deer will eat just about anything green. They also love actively growing young plants, i.e. the nursery stock you plant in your landscape. So depending on your specific situation, your mileage will vary on deer resistance ratings of plants. If you love learning about native trees like the American holly, be sure to pollinate that like button. The bark of the American holly is grayish-white and smooth with scattered warty lenticels. The twigs are similar in color to the bark and are also smooth. Newer growth may have a greenish cast to it. American holly blooms from April to June depending on location. It is a diecious species, meaning there are separate male and female plants. So if you want to be assured of having those showy red berries, plant several. If sex plants are available, they are easy to sex by the flowers. One male can pollinate up to 5 to 10 female plants. Be sure to plant the non-showy male within 50 feet of the female plants to ensure proper pollination. The individual flowers are small, around 1/4 inch in diameter, and have 4 white petals and green and gold centers. The male flowers have 4 white stamens with yellow anthers and form in clusters of 3 to 12 in the leaf axils on the current year's growth. Female flowers have a central green, thick pistil with a yellow stigma and form singly or in 2s or 3s in the leaf axils of the current year's growth. Keeping all these plant traits straight can be tough, and a good guide can be a big help when you are out in the field checking out plants. A handy guide that will not only help you ID the forbs, grasses, ferns, vines, and shrubs you come across, but also points out their wildlife uses, is Forest Plants of the Southeast and Their Wildlife Uses by Miller & Miller. This handy guide is sectioned by plant type, and although it isn't a complete guide to every plant out there, it does contain those that you are most likely to encounter. It makes a great addition to any habitat manager's library, and I'm sure you will love it as much as I do. I will put a link to it in the description. Native bees, honeybees, wasps, and other pollinators are drawn to the flowers of American holly for both the nectar and pollen. You can usually hear the pollinator frenzy on a blooming American holly from some distance. In addition to being a super tree for pollinators in general, the American holly also helps to support a species of plasterer bee with no common name, Colletes banksi, which is a specialist on holly flowers. And now we get to the thing most people associate with holly, those beautiful red berries. American holly grown from seed may take 4 to 7 years to produce berries, while those grown from cuttings produce much faster, usually within 1 to 2 years. Most holly nursery stock is produced from cuttings because the seed may take from 1 to 3 years to germinate. American holly fruits start out green and become bright red or sometimes orange as they ripen, sometime around September, and will persist on the tree through winter and into February if they are not eaten before that. The color is bright but not overly shiny, and the berries are small, around 1/3 inch in diameter. A variety of songbirds, including the northern cardinal, northern mockingbird, and especially the cedar waxwing, feed on holly berries. Game birds like them too, and wild turkeys and northern bobwhite dine on them. At times, small mammals like squirrels will eat them, as will bigger critters such as deer. Holly berries are not palatable to wildlife early in the season, which means you get to enjoy the berries for a while before the birds wipe them out. After the berries endure the winter weather, some freezing and thawing, and just being exposed to whatever nature throws at them, like the crazy weather we've had here in south central Kentucky recently, they become more palatable. Once the berries become palatable, they don't last long. It is not unusual to see a tree loaded with berries totally stripped of them in minutes by a flock of cedar waxwings. The berries are mildly toxic to humans, dogs, and cats, but they don't taste good and are usually not ingested in a high enough quantity to cause issues. On top of providing food and cover for birds, being a host plant, an absolute pollinator magnet, and a source of awesome white wood, American holly is also known for its foliage and berries being used as winter holiday decorations. and its wide use in landscaping as a hedge or windbreak, or as an awesome specimen tree for the yard, if you have the space for it. Our largest holly species isn't the best fit for smaller spaces or yards, but there are many other native hollies that don't get so large. And you can learn about some of them by watching this video, and be sure to take some time and enjoy nature in your backyard.